Howdy, everybody. This is Kathy L. Murphy, the Pulpwood Queen, reporting live from my little cabin in the woods, Murphy's Law. And I'm here this morning with one of my favorite persons in the world, my dear friend, Reavis Wortham, who's been my co-host for several years for our annual Girlfriend Weekend. But we're now expanded to a week-long International Pulpwood Queen and Timber Guy Book Club Convention and Girlfriend Weekend. And Reavis, I've been bugging him for years, bring in all these guys you keep telling me about, how you all get together with your wives and you have these wonderful trips and vacations. So he's done it this morning. And we've got two best-selling authors. So I'm going to turn it over to Reavis and let you introduce your special guests.
Good morning, Kathy. Thank you very much. I'm just excited to be here again. I think this may be my 10th Pulpwood weekend with you guys, and that is now stretched out to an entire week. And you're right. I talk about these guys that I've met once I began writing as a full-time author. The first guy I ran into at a writers' conference. In fact, the first person I ever met at a writers' conference was a guy named John Gilstrap that's here with us. And John and I we talked one day. In fact, I was just sitting waiting for a panel to start, and I sat down in front of the bar.
Where were you sitting, Rev?
I was in front of the bar, John. Thank you very much.
I wanted to make it clear.
Well, I was. What was even funnier, though, is the bar was not yet open because it was like 3 p.m. and John was getting ready. I didn't know who he was. He was getting ready to lead a panel, and he was going back and forth gathering things up. And about the fourth time he walked past me, he looked at me and he said, "Hey, cowboy, I don't know if you've noticed it, but the bar is closed. And you're not going to get served." And I said, "Yeah, but when it opens, I'm going to be the first one." and so we got to talking after that, and we bonded pretty quickly. And now John's one of my dearest friends. We vacation together. Our wives are excellent, great friends, and we just have a wonderful time together. And then John, in turn, introduced me to Jeffrey Deaver. I knew who Jeffrey was. I've read his books for years, and I'd seen The Bone Collector. I'm sure many of you. And so he introduced me to Jeffrey, and we've become really good friends to the point now. every Wednesday at 5 o'clock Central Time, we have our Zoom happy hour, and we sit around and we discuss whatever may come up. We can't discuss with you everything that we talk about.
No, because there are laws and there's propriety and so forth. But Reavis, it's a mark of our love for you that because of the time zone difference, John and I are in the East Coast. We wait until 6 o'clock to start drinking, which is a hard call, but I rise to the occasion for you.
I'm not sure I believe that you actually wait, because there are a couple of times we've all been somewhat lubricated once we got to visiting out there. So it's 5 o'clock somewhere, no matter where we are. But I want you guys to get to know Jeffrey and John, and I'll just pitch it over to either one of you guys who wants to pick it up. They both have new books out. Jeffrey has The Goodbye Man out. John has Hellfire, and you guys can talk about your new books and writing in general, and we'll just forget everybody's watching us here, guys, and we'll just have our usual happy hour and a little mimosa here to get us started.
Well, actually, it won't be our usual happy hour. This is tea. So that is not come close to the usual happy hour. I just want you to know that. But
I love it. Okay.
Well, for my part, let me say, of course, these are two of the greatest guys in the world, but thank you so much for bringing me into your Pulpwood organization. I've been in this business for a long time. Just a little background about me. I have a journalism undergrad degree, a journalism degree, then a law degree. And people say, "Well, Jeff, you write crime books. So clearly you were a criminal lawyer." And my response is, I represented banks on Wall Street.
Well, you were
drawing your own conclusions. But about 40 years ago, oh my God, I guess I wrote my first book about 40 years ago. And over 30 years ago, I quit my law practice to start writing full time. And I've been doing that ever since then. I try to do about a book a year. And I'm the old guy in this crowd, so I've got a few of them under my belt. But it's just been so good to meet these guys. And I think we all agree the camaraderie in the writing world is unparalleled. we're not competitors. We're there to help each other. And for all these decades, that has been the rule of this business.
Fantastic. Same way with our book club.
And I'm John Gilstrap. I've just finished my 24th or 25th book. The latest actually is Stealth Attack. It's not, Hellfire was last year's book, Mr. Wortham.
Yeah, well, you know, there's so many books out there. I can't keep up.
I know. And then next month, actually, I'm writing 2 series at this point. One is the Jonathan Gray thriller series. Jonathan is a freelance hostage rescue specialist who saves the world every July, as it turns out. And I'm writing a second series that stars Victoria Emerson. It's I call it post-apocalyptic, but the publicity people get upset when I call it that, because that's now code word for zombies, and it's not that. This is in the style of On the Beach or Last Babylon. Victoria Emerson is a natural leader who survives this Holocaust and people, and she's got to bring order to chaos. The third book in that series, second book in that series, Blue Fire, comes out next month. But as far as this group is concerned, I think it used to be, back in ordinary times, we would go to various conferences, big ones and little ones, and ultimately the 3 of us would end up often closing the bar. I have often, anybody who's out there who's a budding writer, or my advice is to remember that all business, 100% of all business, is conducted in the bar when it comes to books and writing and meeting people and all of that. I first met Jeff when he gave me a stunning blurb in 1995 for my first book.
95? Oh, let me sit down, Jeff. Oh, I guess I am sitting down. Oh my God. Yes.
And I like to say that this is before he was Jeffrey frickin' Deaver. He was just Jeffrey Deaver at that point.
Yeah, my name was John Grisham at that point.
Is it really Jeffrey frickin' Deaver? Wow.
Yeah, I had to get that changed at the courthouse. But,
we're finding out all kinds of stuff this morning. Okay.
So, but I found out that Jeff was doing a book signing. I think it was a Maiden's Grave.
Could have been probably around then, yeah.
A bookstore in the middle of Woodbridge, Virginia, which is kind of defines not much. And there was no line. I went up and I just started talking to him. I said, "Thank you for the blurb." We started talking. By the end of, I don't know, a half hour or so, we had date to get together for dinner. And we've been doing that ever since. For a long time, we had a regular Thursday night get together at the Hyatt Regency in Reston, Virginia. But when this whole COVID thing started, I found that among the things that I missed most was the interaction with my friends at these conferences, because the conferences aren't happening. So we decided that we would have this Wednesday night happy hour. And it's been going strong. Is it a year yet? It feels like it has been.
It's about a year. Yeah.
Yeah, I would guess a year, something like that. But John, I do have to correct you on one thing. The signing that in Woodbridge, didn't you have to wait in line for about an hour, the velvet rope, to get up to see me? Or is my memory faulty on that? I don't remember.
Well, since you're the oldest among us, we'll go ahead and let you think that that's exactly what it was. That it wasn't walk a straight line from the front door to the guy that's behind stacks of books looking lonely.
You know what? No, go ahead, Jeff.
I was just going to say that was Nathan's Run, right, John? Your first novel. Yeah. Fantastic book, of course. And
you know, one of the things that I've noticed about authors is, and I cut my teeth writing for newspapers and magazines, and those guys, gals are pretty territorial about their column inches and their subject matter and who's writing. And so you got some help, but you didn't get as much as I thought you should. When I met the authors, when I got into writing novels and I met all these authors, these guys and gals will just reach out and help you in any way they want. All they do is say, just give me a call. And it's not you know, it's not exclusive to certain groups. It doesn't matter who they are. They'll just say, you know, if I can help you, I'd be more than happy to. And John and Jeffrey both have given me outstanding blurbs for my books, and it's, you know, it upped my sales probably 2 or 3%, I think. Yeah, maybe if we're lucky. So,
or 2 or 3 books, you know.
What? But the one thing that we do too is we share what we're working on, and we will send manuscripts and talk about our stuff, and just, well, the filters go down. I guess that's the biggest thing within our group, our tight knit group right here. The filters are down, and we We just cover everything and in life in general. And that's
Yeah.
the one thing that we, again, like you said, we miss is getting together at the conferences.
Reavis, you make a very good point there that I hadn't thought about this. We've been doing this for a long time now, getting together for a long time. But this, the Zoom thing, and our lives are run by Zoom now. I wrote 2 books last year, 2 book tours, 2 live events throughout the entire year, and with that kind of lull of COVID. But what I was going to say was that when we get together, filters are down, and that isn't true about many other professions I've been in the past. It's like we have no agendas. We can say anything to each other, and often do, but we won't this morning because I respect all of the viewers out there. But that's we help each other, and it's just fun. I always look forward to it so much. I have even changed scheduled events that would have been on Wednesday because I had to do our thing, had to do our get together.
Yeah, and
one of the go ahead.
No, go ahead, Joe.
I think one of the moments that I don't, calling it special makes it sound probably bigger than it really was. I think it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, the last Thriller Fest that we went to. And Thriller Fest is the International Thriller Writers Association, and it's always held in New York. It's always very expensive, very well attended, and futures in alcohol go sky high with everybody in the bar there. But Jeff got a reservation at the Algonquin Hotel at the famed Algonquin Round Table. Right. So Rev and I and our wives and Jeff got together and sitting at the Algonquin Round Table talking about nothing, not being terribly profound. And it makes me wonder if, back in that day, of the true Round Table, everything, Dorothy Parker is so quotable, and all of these people were so quotable, but I bet they just sat around and talked nothing, at the time. It's I don't know, being a writer is the thing I always wanted to be. I started my career as a firefighter, then a safety engineer, and then an explosives expert, which I didn't realize I was in training to be a thriller writer. And there's just something about walking into a room of these names that I know and I've read, and I know their work, and to share that space is kind of impressive.
Well, and something else I found, John, that we really don't. I don't know that we talk craft very much at all. We have 3 different ways of approaching books, writing books, but it's more. Well, here's kind of what I'm thinking now. I knew I wanted to be a writer when I was 12 years old. I was reading, my parents had this great rule growing up in the Midwest. My sister and I could read any book we could get our hands on, but there were some movies we could not read, we could not see. But that was ironic because in the 1950s, of course, movies were PG at the worst. You never saw any, there was no adult scenes whatsoever. The shooting was all, the person would go like this and fall down, no Sam Peckinpah stuff at that stage. And, so I got this idea that stories in the book form were good. So I was reading James Bond when I was, 7 and 8 years old. And you think, oh my God, that's terrible. But no, even then, Ian Fleming was very discreet about things. The violence was fairly tame, and there were some romantic scenes in that, but oh my God, my hero kissed a girl. Oh, that's just terrible. I'd flip through those pages very quickly, of course, but I knew at that age I wanted to be a writer, and but I also knew I could not be a full-time commercial fiction writer at age 12. I had to live life a little bit. And that's what I find that John and Reavis and I do a lot. We talk about life, we talk about what's going on in the world. And I think that informs our writing to some extent, even if we don't agree about the politics or, social movements or whatever. That's kind of irrelevant. The point is we talk about it. And, have we ever said, no, you can't use the word that, you have to use the word which? I don't think that ever has come up.
Yeah.
No, and as you said, we have 3 different ways of writing. I just sit down, put my fingers on the keyboard, and watch the story evolve. John, I'm kind of speaking for you, John. Join in if you want, but John kind of does a blend of those two things. He kind of knows where his story's going and what's happening. Jeffrey, you are just an outliner to the extreme. And so if we share anything, it's the stories that we tell back and forth about the project we're working on and how we're getting to where we're, how it's progressing, we're getting. And I think I make Jeffrey's head explode when I tell him how I do my part. And, and John has his ideas, as I said, but I think if we all sat down together and started working on something, I think it would be a project worth reviewing.
Well, in fact, we have. Well, we're not going to give anything away here, but and it's a bit on hold now. I'm not going to give any details, but what was it? 3 years ago, one of you two came up with the idea that we do a serial novel. I've edited a couple of these, and they're A, daunting, and B, a lot of fun. So one author will write the first chapter, hand that off to the next author, who hands it off to the next chapter, and the next author, and it can be great fun. It can also be a little, drive you a little bit crazy, but ours is moving along swimmingly. And then, these things happen. You've got to pay your bills. You got to pay your mortgage. And that was not going to make us any money. So we had to get back to our other, the daytime writing projects, which is, now I'm finishing a book actually right here. Sorry, not that it makes
Writes upside down. That's the process.
That's not. It's very. I write on this side of the page too. But now that we're getting that'll be done. So maybe we should get back to that project.
Actually, it's my turn on this project, and I was. I won't go into the gory details. I lost about a month as we got COVID through our family, and we dropped like flies for a while, and that was the window that I had allocated to moving on with that project. So now I've got a deadline in June, so probably won't happen for a little bit. Listen, I'm going to step out of frame for a second because I realize I hate how I'm lit right here, so I'm going to no, I'll be right back.
John, you noticed in all the comments, they said, doesn't he look ugly? What's wrong with that light?
And that's what he does. He'll vanish while we're having our meeting. He'll vanish to adjust his lights, or we'll hear ice tinkling. He'll have to go, fill a glass up again, and we have to fill in for him. But
go ahead, Reavis. What you're going to say?
No. I just it's funny because Jeffrey, you're on a deadline. I have a March 1 deadline for my first new book in a new series called the Tucker Snow series that I am going to sequester myself. We just bought a cabin in 50 acres in Northeast Texas, north of Paris, Texas, and I am going to sequester myself down there and hammer this book out within the next month or so, get it done. John's got one to do, and then we can probably get back on this project that is just, I think you all will like it once it's done because, as I said, John opened it up with a chapter. One of us picked the second chapter and then the third chapter, and it goes around. So what we'll do is I will read what we have written to this point, and then I'll write my next chapter. And none of us knows what's happening. We keep throwing curveballs at each other. And this thing is,
we know that I'm back. We know that there's the MacGuffin, the thing that everybody is searching for. This I can't turn my video back on because somebody turned it off.
It's a lot better though. I kind of like it.
It's lit properly.
It's a shame.
So
there we go.
But I can't tell any difference.
I can't tell a bit of difference, but
that's we know within this plot that there's a letter. And the letter is going to reveal something, and none of us has yet taken on the task of saying what the letter is because I frankly don't know. It's so sooner or later we'll figure it out.
I think
it's kind of in your all's wheelhouse. I mean, this is not. I write modern thrillers like East Coast procedurals, West Coast procedurals. But this is, I don't want to give too much away, but it's, this audience here will definitely appreciate what we're working on.
How's that for a tease? A tease for a book that won't see the light of day for like 3 or 4 years. So
yeah. Just stay with us on all this.
We don't have an ISBN number yet, but you'll be the first to know.
Do we have a title for this trio for this book?
Well, I don't know that we actually do. I mean, we have a kind of a working title, but that would be kind of a giveaway. So unless you guys have
Oh.
come up with something else.
No, it's
I'm
just
just-
the name of the town.
I'm just
Yeah.
calling it the name of the town. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's a small town up in southeast Oklahoma back in the late 1800s. And so this is something different than any of us have done. And it's going to be fun. But again, like we said, that's filling in the cracks between these other books that we're working on, because as we have contracts we have to meet. And that's the one thing about writing a novel. They'll tell you, okay, when can you have this done? That's how they did when I pitched this Tucker Snow novel. And this was back, over a year ago. And they said, can you have it done March 1 of 2022? And I, oh, of course I can. In the back of my head, I figured I would have both of the books written that are outlined in the contract. No, not even close right now.
Is
I know
this
where it's
somewhere
going.
around Idabel, Oklahoma?
North, up in rougher country than Idabel, up somewhere up in the
Okay.
Calumet. Yeah.
Up above Beaver's Bend.
Yeah, a little bit west of there is where we place this fictional town. It's called Slaughterville. Is that not the name of
Right.
the town? Yeah,
Right.
Slaughterville. And it's rough country. I don't know if any of you have ever been up have been through Oklahoma. A lot of you have. It has a really violent history, and that's kind of where this is all leading to. Is a story that is unfolding as we work on it, and we'll figure out. It's kind of like watching somebody else write it, because we don't know where it's going to go or what's.
Well, and I tell my students in my writing courses, you have to write what you know, or do a hell of a lot of research, because it has to be very accurate. Because if you don't do that, you're going to get a letter that goes something like this: "Dear Mr. Deaver, loved your latest novel. However," on page 37, I couldn't help but notice that you referred to a Pentium 226 processor. As you well know, there was never a Pentium 226 processor invented. Very truly yours, et cetera, et cetera. Well, of course, the book is set in Oklahoma, and I went to the school at the University of Missouri, which is kind of in that ballpark, but I lived most of my life in Chicago and New York. So count on me to set a Western in Lower Manhattan. I managed to work that in. Now my character does take his peacemaker and head out west at some point, but I wanted to expand the horizon a little bit on this project.
So let me ask you kind of a conferencey question. Jeff, you've been doing this for what, 40 books, something like that, a long time.
Mhm.
And I've got 25. Reavis, I think you got 14, something like
13,
that.
13, 14 coming out.
I would tell you that my writing has changed primarily in my selection of language. The earlier books were far more profane. The narration was far more like I am in real life. And over time, I have evolved away from the really hardcore cuss words. I've never done a sex scene. I think they stop stories. But that's one way that my writing has evolved. Jeff, can you point to something from
Sure.
book 1 to book 40
Yeah.
where?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what I've done lately, and I'll make this very short, because it's something I talk about at great length, but I will not. We authors of commercial fiction are up against a very formidable competition for our time, the entertainment time, mostly in the form of streaming television. Because who doesn't like to sit down and watch Breaking Bad or The Queen's Gambit and so forth? But that's passive. That's we watch it, then we go on elsewhere. I still think a book is the most emotionally satisfying and enduring creative experience we can have. But we're losing readers to watching shows like that, because you turn on Netflix and now there's like 10 new shows. You can't keep up with them. So what I've tried to do is bring some of those readers back by altering my writing style rather significantly. I used to write books that were about 130 to 140,000 words. Now, 100,000 words top. I have twice as many chapters. I write shorter paragraphs. I write much crisper dialogue, and have more dialogue, more action, less introspective scenes. So it is kind of like you're watching it. I try to be more descriptive. Does that actually work? I don't know. I don't do focus groups, although I'd probably like to. But I think, come on, folks. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to people out there who would say, oh, should I read this book? Or should I just sit back on my rear end and channel surf? And I say, pick up the book. And I hope I can get, get a few more people to to head back from that. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but I think, a book is a very special thing.
Yeah, well, and I'm with you, Jeffrey. I'm a voracious reader and always have been, and I'll turn to books before I'll turn the TV on. But you're talking about, I think, John, you alluded to language and situations. We all try to steer away from strong language now, certain words and situations. But the people that are watching television don't mind it a bit on Yellowstone. I mean,
I know.
Taylor and I got to meet Taylor Sheridan just for seconds, and I watched him work when I was on the set of 1883 back in September. And if you watch Yellowstone, you are literally hearing Taylor talk. That's how he speaks. And so it's okay on TV, but it's not in books. And I think that's an interesting dichotomy.
If you blocked out everything, what was that show? Was it, oh my gosh, it wasn't Tombstone, it was Deadwood. And, if you're watching that, say, well, a child wouldn't watch it with you, but if you did, it would be, like, beep, beep. Well, I want to beep, 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 beep. We really should beep, 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 beep. And it just gets, very self-conscious.
In one of my Sonny Hawk novels, I've never used the F word, but I wanted to use it for emphasis. One of my characters, which is really a bad character in the second novel, and my editor called us. She said, "We've got to take that out. We just can't put it in there. Find another way." And I only used it once, but since then I've shied away from it, even though it was just for emphasis at that point. But in casual conversation in some of these TV shows, they roll right over it. And I got to admit, I'm not a saint. I'll cut loose with some stuff on occasion. But yeah, did you see John's eyebrows go? Yeah, he's been around me enough.
Well, I think it's probably because I think reading is a more intense experience. You're creating that, it's kind of a magical process that I don't pretend to understand, but the spots on the page become pictures, and suddenly whatever's happening, you're actually living the events of a book that you like to read. And I guess because it's people's own personal movie, that the language that they would find offensive but gloss over when they're watching on a screen, when it's on their head screen, I guess it's just more intense. Because I've gotten, the reason I stopped doing, two reasons I stopped using the F-bomb in particular. One, I got dozens, hundreds of letters and emails from people specifically about Nathan's Run, which the first book where the protagonist is 12. And there was a lot of profanity in that book. And I heard from people who said, first of all, they were angry that their kids read it. And then, I wish I could show this to my mother or my sister or, because it's kind of a story they would love. And that always kind of resonated with me. Okay, I'm writing for the reader. But then I was told that the thriller buyer for one of the major distributors of books really hates that word. And okay. That's easy. If people find it's what we do as a business, and it's a fun business, but my job, I won't say our job, my job is to provide hours of entertainment. And I have found, God, I haven't used that high end profanity in probably 15 years. I mean, it's been a long time. And no one has ever written to me and said that and I write pretty gritty thrillers. Nobody has ever complained that it's not there, that the dialogue doesn't seem
right. Well, something I never thought about either. My oldest daughter is a high school librarian, and she says that a lot of books can't go on her shelves because of profanity and certain scenes. And it never occurred to me that a lot of our books are in school libraries and hopefully public libraries. So,
well, I do have that word appears. I mean, not frequently. I think Breaking Bad. I was listening to the Jonathan Banks, who played Mike Ehrmantraut, and I saw the whole series. I loved it. But he said, we were very conscious of that, and we got the bad. I think he said the F-bomb and maybe the S word or whatever it was, maybe 3 or 4 times in 6 years, and it was necessary. it was just at the right moment. And I've used it some, like a New York City policeman running down, Fifth Avenue and gets shot in the arm, winged in the arm. He doesn't say, gosh, that hurts. They don't do that. But what I do when the books are translated into audio or recorded on audio, I edit the script, because I don't want, mom and dad taking little Billy or Susie to soccer practice to be listening to my book on tape. And, little Billy or Susie says, what does that mean? And then I lose sales. So it's all self-interest. I admit that. But for veracity's sake, I mean, sometimes, you kind of need that grit in there, but you can overdo it too much. I mean, Samuel L. Jackson, have you seen the mixed tape of him, or the mixed thing on YouTube of him go? I think it's all beeped out, but everything is beeped out like I was doing before.
Reavis,
Yeah.
I think this is a great time. This is a hot topic. I think this is a great time to open this up for discussion. And it's so funny because when my first book came out, I was describing how we used to go creeking, and we go down Turd Creek. And my publisher told me, you can't say turd. And I go, but that's what, it's a memoir. That's what everybody called it. Well, you can't say turd. And I thought, you can't say turd, but I hear the F-bomb, everywhere. And I would like to open it up. So if it's okay with you now, I'm hearing a lot of chat. So I'm going to move to gallery here. And anybody want to make a comment on this conversation? Mandy, you've been posting.
Well, I was just talking about, I agree. And it's so funny because I'm like with the sex scenes, I'm so uncomfortable writing those. I do get a little uncomfortable reading them. No, that's not true. I'm just not comfortable writing them.
Fess up. Go ahead. Fess up, Mandy. Let's hear it.
But I have a short story, my first collection, and the title is actually Fucking Hipsters. And I thought about changing it. And I thought, no, I'm not. I've indie published. You would not believe how many readers in their 60s, 70s, and 80s tell me how that's their favorite story. And like my sister is at one of the book events, she told a few of her people that she brought in from her little, now there are some the people that she thought she should, brace for it. They're the ones that told me, what a powerful story. They loved it. Like they did not care one word, not even a speck about that. But I know what y'all are saying in the commercial world. Like it's so much different than my thing. But that was all.
Well, I like it that you sort of double down on it. You're going all out. Yeah, excellent. I have an idea for my new title, by the way. I'm going to think about this some. I won't share it, but I have a good idea for it.
Go ahead, share it.
Well, language can get you in trouble in more ways than one, and even when you're writing certain things. I write, my Red River series is set in Northeast Texas in the 1960s, and there are situations in there that are uncomfortable, civil rights, and I address everything the way it was, the way I saw it, and the way I heard it. And I've gotten some letters, that you shouldn't be using, the N word or whatever. And I try to explain to them, I number one, it's in dialogue, and it's the time and the place. If we try to sanitize the history that I'm writing about, you're not getting real history anyway.
Well, so, and it's your character's voice. It's the character. It's that story, and that's what people get so like. The guy he was a 70-year-old man who was so upset about what was happening with gentrification in his neighborhood, and he was really upset and mad. So if I would have changed it, that's what he said. That was his voice. Yeah.
That's true. And I've written some things that I have a novel that has not seen the light of day yet, and in that novel there's a sex scene, with the only one I've ever written. And when I told my daughters about it, they said, "Well, Dad, what do you know about sex scenes?" And so I had to. I thought, well, if they're questioning that, I probably need to wait for a little while before this gets out.
Well, you can send it to me and I'll read it. I'll tell you what I think.
Oh, well, there you go. See, now we see the real Mandy. Okay, yeah.
Well, I mean, I've had requests for a little more romance in my books, but my template for one of my thrillers, all 40 of them have fallen into this. They take place over only 2 days, lots of reversals and surprises. I like a very compressed time frame. And, if my heroes pause for a dalliance, we think less of them. Come on, get on with the story. Wait, the bomb is going to go off. The assassin is there. But, come back to my hotel room. No, move, get with it.
Well, that's
one of the problems I had, not to speak ill of books. I thought The Hunger Games was a terrific book. And then as the series progressed, clearly I'm not the demographic for The Hunger Games. But the first book, it was dystopian and it really had some great pacing to it. And then by the time you went through, with the whole world in balance, Katniss is wondering if her boyfriend likes her.
Yeah.
It was such a bizarre shift, but that's knowing it did pretty well. So that's a matter of the writer knowing his or her audience and writing to it. I think, excuse me, in my case, my writing is so close third person. In every scene, I'm essentially narrating through the voice of the third person character. So dialogue and exposition really can't be separated, right? So and that's where I got in trouble. I didn't get in trouble. I want to put it that way. Nobody censored me. But when the narrative voice, I think, in my case, for my writing, when the narrative voice is profane, I think that's when people get uncomfortable. I don't think if somebody, I don't know, stubs their toe on something and breaks it and has to be in a boot for a long time, and when that happens, he yells something profane. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
Well, no, you should have seen me the other day when I hit my thumb with a hammer. I said, "Oh darn, yeah." And that was, but you know what? We write thrillers. The three of us write fast-paced thrillers, and so you don't have time to slow down for dalliances or anything. We're rushing toward the climax of the story, and so and I learned my first novel, The Rockhole, when it came out. I learned very quickly what slows a manuscript down, and I went in and excised as much as possible. And my books move fast, just like yours do, John, and Jeffrey's also. And so we learn our audience, we learn to write, we learn to polish, and it's an ongoing process. It never stops.
Any other questions for these guys? Comments? I see a lot of you remarking now how you love the book. Say something.
Well, I just have to say, Randy Brown, one of our authors who has her book is one of the bonus books for this month.
That's
It is Market Street Madam. Fantastic. She needs to sit in with y'all a couple. I'd love to just say,
I do. I think I'm friends with Reavis on Facebook, so he's only got like 90 million friends. But yeah, I need to sit in with you guys because what I'm trying to do is actually show women as strong characters. And I signed a contract with Wolfpack for a series of 3, and I'm using a female brand inspector now. But it's just sort of like, it's weird in a weird way being female and writing Westerns or trying to go along that path. So this conversation, you guys, is brilliant for me. So thank you.
We hope it's inspiring. Good.
No F-bombs, bodice rippers, and I can't take the name of the Lord in vain, but I'm sure Market Street Madam did all of those, but so now I have to change a little.
Congratulations on that contract. That's with Mike,
Indeed.
right?
Yeah, Mike Ray.
Yeah. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I think one of the only rules of, whether it's language or just in general writing, the only rules are that there are no rules. One of the things that I see so much frustration, there are Facebook groups that I participate on kind of with a lot of new writers and such, and you can't have a prologue. You can't start with weather. You can't, I don't know what all the other can'ts are. And absolutely none of that is true. It's everything, I think it's important that a writer find his or her voice and write that way with the characters that they create and that they know and that they like, and forget about any rules or what anybody else tells you.
That's true. For everyone's information, John and I write for a blog called the Kill Zone blog. John's been with him for a long time. He brought me in a few months ago, and he and we post every other week, and along with a number of other excellent authors. And it's an exercise in writing and the business itself. If you're interested in any aspect of writing novels or writing short stories or anything else, just go to KILLZONE.com and
killzoneblog.com.
Killzoneblog.com. Yeah. And it's an education unto itself. I'm learning still from these folks. There's, as John said, there are no rules. And I'm proud to be a part of this group that really is trying to help other writers and to help the business itself.
What's interesting about the Kill Zone, I've been doing it 10 years, I guess. There's disagreement within I think we're up to 14 contributors. I don't know, somewhere north of 10. And one person's approach to writing, James Scott Bell posts every Sunday, and Jim is an extraordinary teacher of writing. He's Writer's Digest books best-selling author on writing books. And his approach to things, it's not, I don't know, I would never say it's wrong, but his approach to things is so entirely different than mine. And I've known Jim for years, and there's no animosity, but it's really interesting there's 7 days in a week, right? And some people post every other week, as I do every other Wednesday. And even within all of these folks, they all have different approaches on how to go at a story, which is what makes reading kind of an interesting thing.
Kathy, I know we're starting to run out of time. I'd like for Jeffrey and John to tell us about their upcoming releases, and so that everybody can know what's coming out. Jeff, you want to lead off on that? Sure.
Actually, The Goodbye Man, I had 2 books last year. The Goodbye Man was one, featuring my character Coulter Shaw. And then in November, I had The Midnight Lock, which is a Lincoln Rhyme book, the character from The Bone Collector, the 15th in that series. And very briefly, I love my villains. We like our heroes. Who doesn't love the heroes? But I love my villains best. They're great fun to create. And this villain is just wonderful. What he does, he's the ace locksmith. He can break through any lock ever invented, but not these, electronic locks where you can, open the door with your cell phone, whatever. Like right now, there are 13-year-old kids hacking those. We all know that happens. These are the old-fashioned Medico kind of locks that he uses the tools to get into. He breaks in the middle of the night, after midnight, of course. And then what does he do? I can't tell you because I'm a suspense writer, but he does terrible things. And Lincoln Rhyme and Amelia Sachs get on the case. And then I'm writing, the one I'm working on right now is the new Coulter Shaw book that will be out in next summer. And then I'm outlining the new Lincoln Rhyme book for 2013. Oh, wow. I'm sorry, 2023. Right. Oh.
This is
all right. I am next. This is an advanced reader's copy. Blue Fire is the second book in the Victoria Emerson series set in the post-apocalyptic world. And there's the latest, whoops, there it is. And that's the latest of the Jonathan Grave stories. In Stealth Attack, the latest Grave book, Jonathan is a freelance hostage rescue guy, and he works with this team out of Fisherman's Cove, Virginia. And one of his assistants, Venice Alexander, her son, is kidnapped by the drug cartels and taken down south. And that it turns out to be a big mistake. And so those are what the stories are about. Right now, I have just started yesterday. I have 200 words into the book that's due on June 15th, and that'll be called White Smoke. The third in the, so have Crimson Phoenix, Blue Fire, and White Smoke are I think it's going to be a trilogy, unless it sells real well, in which case, who knows. But.
There you go. Are your 200 words in any kind of order right now, or do you just put 200 words down?
Well, they find themselves. Once they get on the page, they wander around and hook themselves
line
up in some order.
That's great. My newest book that will come out February 15th is a prequel, The Texas Job, a prequel in the Red River series, and it is set in 1931 Northeast Texas during the oil boom around Kilgore, Texas. And it was a rough time, a lot rougher than people know about it. There's a lot of history in Northeast Texas. And our ranger, Tom Bell, that everybody loved and loves in the Red River series. I killed him off in the third book. And I got so much grief from everybody that I had to bring him back. I had to go back and reread my own work to see if I could figure out a way to get him back. But Tom Bell is back in the Texas job. He's a young Texas Ranger on the trail of a murder and finds himself in the midst of a much larger crime organization when he gets to Kilgore, Texas, Longview, Liberty City, that area. And ultimately the climax winds up in Hot Springs, Arkansas, back when Hot Springs was a gangster's hideout. And so that one comes out February 15th. I'm only going to do one signing so far because of COVID. I've got one in Paris, Texas. Beyond that, I think everything else is going to be online, all the interviews and whatever. So we just adapt as we have to, and then we go on. Kathy?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, that's just right down the road for me. Does Kilgore not have a bookstore? Maybe you could do something with the university.
Yeah, I have people that at the publishers that are working on that right now. I don't know where they are, but I'm hoping that they'll set something up.
Yeah, because that's just right down the road from me, and so's Paris. So good for you. Well, you guys, this has been a real pleasure. It's always great to hear camaraderie amongst our authors, whether they're female or male. But I happened to grow up on Westerns. In fact, my grandparents lived in the country, and I practically lived with them. And they would just, when the lightning would hit their TV, they just put another one on top of it. You all know that. And I thought the only shows that was on television at their house was Wagon Train, High Chaparral, Bonanza, Roy and Dale Evans show. But I love a good suspense, a good Western. I love you guys. And
I'm just so glad because we, Pulpwood Queens, it's so easy to say, I'm proud to be a Pulpwood Queen and Pulpwood Queen, but we've got some great timber guys. So
we do.
Thanks. Yeah.
I think y'all should call your bar group the Timber Guy Book Club. And then you can just, we have Jamie Ford runs one up in Montana, and they meet in the bar.
Yep, he does.
Yep. So,
there's a plan. I like that.
We can't even agree. We can't even agree what's the best gin. I mean, clearly we got Beefeater, you got Bombay Sapphire, and you got Hendrix, right? Those are
some of us know who's right. That's easy, John.
Yeah.
We don't need to agree.
I don't know how you guys drink that swill. Yeah.
Well, we've been having happy hour every night after the festival. So y'all jump back in and join us. And you've never seen anything. If you haven't come to the Great Big Ball of Hairball, we're having a masquerade. You should pop
Y'all got lots of it.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Here.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Reavis. You guys have fun. Keep in touch. Mandy and I, get us your books, man, and we'll plug you like crazy. We're always looking for great reads, and our address is up on the pulpwoodqueens.com website. And then we started Sunday night. We're going to be having a new thing. We're going to have like an Academy Awards book awards show for our books of the year. So we're going to do it at the end of the convention every year. And
Kathy,
so
we got to hustle.
Yep, we got to.
It's 10:50.
Oh my gosh!
Okay.
Well, you guys.
Well, thank you all. Thanks for including us, and you all take care now.
You too. Enjoyed
Bye-bye.
it so much. Thank you,
Take care.
everybody.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.